Yo, what's up, guys? Epidemic here. Today, I think we really need to have a serious conversation about the Dead by Daylight community, specifically Dead by Daylight Twitter, and just things that happen in the game and post-game chat. Now, I really want to say two things before we actually delve into the topics that will be in this video. One of which is I really don't think the Dead by Daylight community is as toxic as it is made out to be or as people post about. I think the Dead by Daylight community has a lot more positive interactions than negative, but the negative interactions are the ones that get more views, are the ones that get seen more. So people have this stigma that, wow, Dead by Daylight is just super negative and everyone's super toxic, which just really isn't the case in my eyes. I've done entire streams where I've had not a single negative interaction, but I don't think I've ever really had a stream or a time I hopped in the game where I didn't have a positive interaction, and that has nothing to do with who I am, what I identify as, or what my race or anything like that is. It was just me playing the game for fun, and I found a lot of other people tend to have a blast when you do that. So the second thing I wanted to say is because of the thing I just said, which is I don't think it matters who or what you are, and I also don't think Dead by Daylight is extremely toxic. But I have also had experiences where I have been doxxed, I have been DDoSed, I have been sent death threats, I've been told to unalive myself, I've had my community targeted, I've been defamed, I've been slandered. I've had pretty much everything that could happen in the book happen to me as well as a, not marginalized streamer. And I'm not counting slugging or being bled out on the ground. That's also happened, but that's just, to me personally, that's not really something that I group in with the other things. So the first topic is going to be Dead by Daylight Twitter. I'm not going to say anyone's name in specifics. If you do somehow figure out who I am talking about, please do not send any hate or anything like that to them in any form. This is not about that. I think this is just a discussion that we need to have civilly. So ever since I got Twitter, because I thought it would be a cool way to kind of promote my stream, maybe grow a bit, interact with more members in the community, and learn who more people are, I saw a constant trend of people just being extremely rude to each other. Now, as we know, the community has a lot of different opinions, and everyone has their very specific opinion on different topics. But when I saw people posting their opinions, oftentimes instead of a discussion with other people, they would get attacked for what they thought. Someone could say, wow, I really find this killer unfun, and instead of being met with, well, hey, I find it fun because of X and Y, it was mostly met with insults and attacks. Now, this trend seemed to continue for as long as I had been a part of the Dead by Daylight Twitter community, with people attacking each other for opinions, for who they are, for their streams, for their actions in game, and it was just frankly kind of stupid in my eyes. However, what happened yesterday on Dead by Daylight Twitter was my final straw, and where I thought I really do need to say something about this topic. The whole reason I was very excited about growing on YouTube and on Twitch was I was finally happy that I had my own platform where I could kind of do better for the Dead by Daylight community and try to spread positivity, spread being chill, just, spread that decent, fun, happy mindset. So with that being said, it really hurts when I see predominant content creators with very large communities just spreading hate to not only other content creators, but creating divides in the Dead by Daylight community. This all goes back to when I said I don't think the community is as toxic as people think it is. I think that Dead by Daylight Twitter is a massive, massive echo chamber where if you talk about things being toxic or you post about things being toxic, that's all new players and most players are going to see. They're not going to see the positive interactions or the fun times you had. They're going to focus more on the really bad things that have happened. I myself have only really had two extremely toxic interactions to the point I felt I needed to post a video about them to clear things up, as opposed to the countless friends and amazing interactions I've had with other people. In fact, in my stream just yesterday, I had at least 4 or 5 TTVs who were also streaming who had an absolute blast playing against my jumpscare Bubba, and we all had a really fun time that entire stream. So now we're going to move into what, again, happened yesterday on Dead by Daylight Twitter. A user on Twitter posted a video basically saying that if you are slugged or bled out on the ground, it might not be because of who you are, but it could just be that's what the killer finds fun, or the killer's just trying to get a 4K and they need to go for a slug there. This was in a response to the Dead by Daylight Twitter community having a big issue with people being bled out on the ground or people being slugged or simply the way that the killers are playing. I mean, it happens on both sides, but this specific situation was talking about bleeding people out on the ground and humping people on the ground. Now, as a killer main and someone who's honestly probably 95% of my hours are in killer, slugging is very crucial. Now, I'm not saying bleeding people out on the ground, but I've had many situations where if I wanted to turn a game into a more favorable state for me, I had to slug to create that pressure. I also don't think that anything people do in the game is toxic, and I know that is my opinion and many people have differing opinions. So to me, being bled out on the ground, as sucky as that may be, I don't really care too much. Being face camped, I kind of just laugh it off. I don't find it to be something extremely egregious. As I said earlier, I have experienced being bled out. I have experienced being face camped, smacked on hook, humped. I just don't really let it bother me, and I just move on to the next game. Now, other players don't share the same sentiment, and after this user posted the video saying, hey, you know, it's not the killer's job to make sure you have fun. It's not always people just targeting you. It could just be the way they play the game. They received quite a lot of backlash from other content creators and other Twitter users, which then the communities started lashing out at each other, and now everyone on Twitter was just going absolute apeshit yesterday. And again, a common trend I notice in Twitter, but specifically Dead by Daylight Twitter, is conversations end up devolving from talking about the game and gameplay and end up moving more towards politics and just societal norms, which does not end up going very well on Twitter, as we all know. People were saying that the user can't have an opinion because they weren't marginalized, and anybody who wasn't maybe a person of color or someone who wasn't trans couldn't speak out about the topic and couldn't have an opinion about a topic. And I thought that that mentality was extremely unhealthy. I think that anyone who plays Dead by Daylight should have an opinion on the game and be able to speak their truth about what they think the future of the game should hold or what gameplay is like. I think that is healthy, where we are in a situation that everyone can kind of speak out what they think to each other in a civil manner. Now, the issue is it's Twitter, and people aren't talking in a very civil manner, and it ends up just people are attacking each other, and nothing's really getting accomplished besides spreading more hate and spreading even more of a bad representation and image of the Dead by Daylight community. Now, here's one thing I want to make very, very clear. I am not saying that targeting doesn't happen. I know for a fact it does. I know there are people who, if they see you are LGBTQ, or if they even see you have the flag, they will target you for it. If you are a marginalized streamer, there are people out there who are scummy enough that will target you for it. That is just a thing that happens. However, people who end up getting targeted tend to assume that every time that something happens to them, it's because of X, when sometimes it can be, but oftentimes it's just the way the killer's playing, or sometimes the killer's just a massive troll, or the survivor is. It's just something that people tend to do in Dead by Daylight. You have people who face camp, you have people who bleed out, you have people who hump. It's something that happens, and that's not always motivated by a reason. It can be, but more times often than not, it is not. So with that being said, I'd like to talk a bit about victim mentality, and specifically an experiment that I found that I thought was extremely fascinating. Now, this was a scholarly experiment where 24 undergraduate women were basically told that they had a scar on their face, and it was all done with makeup, but it was very, very realistic. And then they were told that this scar needed to be touched up before they went off into their interviews, that they were going to see if there was interview bias because of the way they looked. When the researchers said they were touching it up, they actually completely removed it. Now, when these undergraduate students were in their interviews, they all said that there was a bias because of the scar that they thought they had on their face, and they could actually pick out specific things that the interviewer had said that they thought directly correlated to their scar and their appearance, which again was not actually there. Now, I want to say, yet again, I'm not saying that people aren't targeting people, that there aren't people who are saying extremely racist or homophobic things. I'm just saying that that isn't what happens all the time. Now, with that experiment I just said, I will put a link in the description to it. It is a scholarly article. You may need an institutional email to get into it. I had to do that. But when you think that you're being targeted 24/7, if something happens like you're being slugged and bled out on the ground, you may think it's because of something else than what it actually is. And when people are constantly posting on Twitter or on their platforms that that is the reason, and they don't even know for sure that it is, this is going to scare away new players, current players, people who are in those communities, people who are part of those groups that we'd really love to be less marginalized and have more of a representation, are not going to want to play because of this. So the last thing I really wanted to touch on is what people on Twitter are doing that I think is kind of making it harder on themselves. Now, if you had a really bad experience in endgame chat and you post on Twitter saying how much it hurt you and how it, made you feel emotionally and how it really attacked you, and then you post it on Twitter, now more people are going to know, wow, we got a rise out of this person. Let's just keep doing it, or let's do it to other people and see if we can get a rise out of them. You now have the people commenting on being bled out on the ground and how detrimental it is for them and how horrible it is and how it's harassment. Well, the more that you do that, unless the devs actually change it, the more you talk about how much it affected you, the more I honestly think you'll probably get people to target you. I think we'll spread less from the people that it'll happen to you or you think you're being targeted, you're not, to more, probably people will target you now because they know they can get a reaction out of you. This, to me, reminds me very, very much of the cheater situation that we had way back when. I guess it wasn't that far back, but whenever cheaters are going after someone, and I will cite the Milky Way's Discord because they had a user in there who made a list of essentially every streamer that they played against or other cheaters played against, and what their IP was, or not what their IP, what their Steam cloud was, their information, and comments on them, and what you could do to piss them off, or what, the cheaters thought about them. Now, people who they got a good reaction out of were oftentimes the one who got the more malicious cheaters. They were cheaters who could just fuck around in game, and then there were cheaters who were actually, holding you hostage for 50 bajillion hours. In situations like Spook and Jukes, when the cheaters saw that he would literally just hop on another platform and play unhindered, they kind of grew tired of sniping him and saw that it didn't work out. In my personal situation, they literally had a comment that I will read that states, "Funny as hell, LOL, will give the killer the kill, but the commentary is a solid 20 out of 10. Now, I never encountered a cheater who actually held me hostage or did anything malicious. Every time I got a cheater, and it was quite a bit of cheaters, I only got cheaters that did funny things. I think the worst thing I ever had happen was a cheater made a swastika of traps in the basement. And yeah, that sucks, but it's not like I got held hostage or got, DDoSed again or doxed or anything like that. I have this same kind of thing happen whenever people come into my chat to try to harass me. I don't give them a reaction, I just kind of go along with it and make them look like an absolute fool of themselves in front of the entirety of my Twitch community. People will call me dog shit, say I'm horrible at killer. I'll ask them to 1v1 me, and if they accept, they get shit on, and if they don't, well, then they kind of just chicken out and realize, wow, I'm talking all this shit, but I can't even back it up at all. So when you're not giving these people the time of day, you're not giving them the reactions they want, more often than not, they're going to start leaving you alone, realizing it's not worth their time. It's very similar to if you're playing Killer in Dead by Daylight. If you have 4 survivors in the game, which you should, and one of those survivors is juicing the shit out of you in that first chase, you're going to want to leave that survivor and go find someone who's easier to chase and will give you downs or give you more pressure. So the metaphor here is, instead of trying to go for someone that's not giving you a reaction or not giving you a down, you're going to go for the people who give you downs or pressure or a reaction. The reason I was just really frustrated with the situation, and when I streamed yesterday I was extremely frustrated, is when you as a streamer are trying to promote a sort of positive vibe for the Dead by Daylight community, but then you have all these bigger streamers or people with larger followings that are just making the game seem so much more toxic or so much worse than it really is. It's really hurtful. It scares away new players, it scares away current players, it scares away people from wanting to stream, from wanting to content create. And I think on a game like Dead by Daylight, instead of trying to divide the community and see what separates us as people or as content creators, we should be trying to unite the community and seeing what can unite us as people. We shouldn't separate or attack people. We should have civil conversations about our opinions and just enjoy the fact that we are part of a community that honestly can be very wholesome and very positive. Now, to end the video, I'm going to give 2 very simple tips to help you if you are very reactive to endgame chat or you feel like you're getting sniped and targeted. If you are very sensitive to endgame chat and people talking shit to you in the endgame chat, simply hit continue. Don't read it. Just go to the next game. Furthermore, if you're on console, just turn off DMs unless they're from friends. If you are feeling like you're getting targeted, turn on anonymous mode. That's why it's there. If people are stream sniping you, you can either put a delay or use something to cover up your characters and your lobby when you queue until you get into the actual game so people don't know it is you. Anyways, with that all being said, thank you guys for watching. I know it was a really long video, but I really felt like I needed to say this. I was getting quite frustrated just looking at what people were saying on Twitter, attacking each other. It was just an absolute mess. So thank you guys so much for sticking around and have a fantastic day.